concept I never thought about, I never considered until this week. That there are definitely some nations throughout the world, pretty much for the most part, it's the same ethnic group. Let me try to think of one. I would think for the most part, a place like Norway, for the most part, mainly Scandinavian people, for the most part. Then you've got other countries that are specifically mixed, like America, United States of America, pretty ethnically mixed. I would have to think somewhat similar findings with a place like Italy, as I learned that my Italian ancestors were more Middle Eastern and Jewish than anything. Spain, probably the same way, as my great-grandmother, who was Sephardic Jewish makes me think that they originated in Spain. Okay, so we can accept that there are certain countries where the main population, most people, are the same ethnicity. Others, absolutely just mixed. But what I'd never really considered until this week, what about in between? It feels like, in my perspective of reality, that there are certain nations in which the population is more of two people groups that are mixed. I want to give you an example off the top of my head. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Uzbekistan, is that how you say it? Uzbekistan? When I look at the people from that country, it appears to be a mix between Russian people and Asian people. And some of the people look a little bit more Russian, some look a little bit more Chinese or something, but overall they look pretty mixed. So that's an example of where it seems two different ethnicities collided, and that's the people. Another one I'm thinking about is Nepal. When I think about Nepal, I think of people who look half Asian and then half Indian. And from what I can understand, I think they're pretty much kind of settled in between those two countries. And so you've got this country of people who look arguably half Indian and half Chinese. That's the way it looks. So I think that's interesting, because here in America, those would be considered two different races. If you're Indian from the country of India and Chinese. I'll tell you another one, a little more local to me where I am in America. Mexico. As you all know, my grandmother was Mexican. According to the DNA test through MyHeritage, it revealed she was closer to something like 82% Mayan Aztec, whereas the rest would have been European. But for the most part, when you look at someone who's Mexican, a lot of the findings are showing that there's somewhere roughly around half Mayan, Aztec, Central American, whatever we want to call it, and then the other half European. We think in our minds it's Spanish, but it's not always European. So it's kind of like two different ethnicities, and that's who is in Mexico. So those are three examples I'm thinking of countries in which it seems like the major population is, for the most part, two predictable ethnicities that are mixed, and that's the people group, which is in contrast to places like Norway, where most people are the same basic ethnicity, predictably, and then other places like America or Spain or Italy, where things are predictably all mixed. So I think that's fascinating. What other countries are like that, where it's two predictably ethnicities that are mixed, and that's the main people in that country? And what other countries are like that? I think that's a fascinating thought. Help me out, comments.